if you can just delay the gratification for now, in today's world where now Instagram, everybody wants it now, that's a fault for the bigger payoff later, right? You're not betting for the long run.
And so I was the first guy to leave. And I walked out the door one night, there went a little more than 50% of my business.
Is the prize there that you want at the end of the tunnel? Before you take the risk, is the prize there that you want, that you're going to be satisfied? That's the first question of betting long on whatever it is you're betting on. Stories of going long. We talk about it a lot on the show, Craig. Play the long game, not the short game. We figured, you know what? It's summertime. Let's give you some summertime stories and some good stories that we have about going long, some of the bets that we made, real life stories.
I'm probably the longest one with experience. I probably have the most stories about going long, huh? Let's go back in time. 1997. Had belonged to a kind of a loosely put together producer group. We had our own plane. We used to say our target market was 600 nautical miles. We had about 25 staff people, and we had specialists in every kind of department you could believe. And I was the benefits guy. And, the plan that we had to coordinate, consolidate, become employees under one corporation, all own a piece of the action, well, it evaporated. And so I was the first guy to leave. And so when I did that, I walked out the door one night and there went a little more than 50% of my business because I was doing joint work with the other guys in the office. And the majority owner was pretty much an ironclad dictator. So nobody could do business with me from that point forward. So, that was, okay, reinvent myself. That's actually when I came up with Energy, Employers National Expert Resource Group, Inc. I said, look, I went to a marketing agency, the guy I knew, and I said, whatever you do, I do not want to hear benefits, insurance, or agency in the title. So come up with something cool. So they came up with their own customized letters, and I had this cool brochure with all these slicks and inserts, and reinvented myself. And so 3 years later, had $1 million plus book, and away we went. But had to suck it up there for the first 90 days. Pretty hard.
Well, let's go back for a second. I mean, the reason we're talking about this is whether you're starting from scratch or you're switching agencies, it can be daunting and overwhelming, right? And it can be very easy to think of what can I do to make as much money fast versus looking at the long game, right? And sometimes people take shortcuts. Some people have different situations than others where they can't take the risk. But how can you set yourself up to take more risk is really the question, saying, well, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. Well, is there a way to figure it out? And so we're all about playing the long game. The reason we want to talk about some of those stories tonight is I want you guys to see the benefits of what it pays off in the long run. And I see people playing the short game, whether it be in our industry or others, even closest family members that I know, and they just don't get the point of, well, if you're going to work that hard, you're going to do this. If you can just delay the gratification for now, in today's world where now Instagram, everybody wants it now, that's a fault for the bigger payoff later, right? You're not betting for the long run. And so I figured we'd talk a little bit about that today. That being said, playing the long game, Virtue Health, show sponsor, check us out, virtuealliance.com. Heading into fourth quarter now, baby. It's RFQ time. Send them in. Let's take a look. Let us help you win some of those groups from fully insured to self-funded. Groups are transitioning more and faster than ever in today's market because the premiums are going up. PwC says highest rate hike in 13 years, well over 8%, $1 million claims, up 50% over the last 4 years. Better have the right protection, right policy in place, because those claims, it's not if they will come, it's when. But going back to the long game, so Craig, you're in a situation, let me break that down so you guys understand is he goes right to the punch, but he's at an agency, right? Some of you maybe at the agency, I've talked to many of you, say, I've got this book of a couple $100,000, I get 20% of it, but if I went on my own, I have to start over from scratch. What do I do? And Craig's in a situation of, well, I got to pick up, this guy's crazy. I got to pick up what I built and leave and start over with a wife and kids at the time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you said something earlier. Well, I can't do it because of this reason or that reason. So I like to tell people who tell me they can't do something. I said, yeah, but just think about this for a minute. If you could do it, what would you do? It's a great pattern interrupt to people who start in right away with the excuses. Yeah, but if you could do it, what would you do? How would you do it? And you know what? They always have an answer. What they lack is kind of the courage to say, you know what, I don't have to put all my eggs in one basket. I don't have to take the easy route and go after all the groups I'm used to selling. How are you ever going to stretch yourself and grow? You can't, there's only so many cases you can handle. And if you're only going to work certain size groups, you're going to max out. And that max out will always limit your income level, your revenue level, your impact, your influence, your lifestyle, your relationships. And so you got to think that's part of the long game, is thinking about, hey, if I delay gratification a little bit and I don't do this and don't do that, I mean, we got more stories coming on that route. But, back in the day, this was the story. I was still retail, and it was like I had to reinvent myself. I've always been good at that. And so I would invest. Back then I probably had $80,000 in debt to come up with the marketing agency and the slicks and the print.
You're talking 25 years ago. Big number back then, going into debt that amount on a credit card, probably, right?
The difference is I always believed in myself. I always knew that even though it may not pay for itself and then, next week, next month, next quarter, I was going to win, because I wouldn't accept anything but that. And that's what people need. They need to know that they can do it, whether they do it with their team or they do it solo like I was back in the day. But that's what they need.
When I would talk about how I did it or what made you risk, like how did you do it, I just, like you said, I never believed I was going to fail. I saw other people doing it. How much money did they make? And I just thought, well, I could do what they do, or I could do it better. So I knew. So when you're betting on the long game, this is one of the key things to think about, right? And before we even go into some of the stories, is the prize there that you want at the end of the tunnel? Before you take the risk, is the prize there that you want, that you're going to be satisfied? That's the first question of betting long on whatever it is you're betting on. And if it is there, well, then you need to do the necessary steps to get there. So taking on the debt, this, that, or the other, sometimes you got to be blind to it. I'm considering buying a house right now with a lot of work and a lot of money. And I see the numbers on paper and I'm looking at it like, oh, maybe this bet could go wrong, but I know it's very likely to go right in a big way. And so it's like, you know what, instead of looking at the numbers, sometimes you got to turn a blind eye to it and make some calculated risks and just go, you know what, I know I can make this happen and make this work. And that's what some of you need to do internally that you're struggling with. You're going to the fourth quarter. Can I make it? Can I make it? Because let me tell you, after you make the bet, that's just the first step. You are going to go through some ups and downs and roller coaster ride like you wouldn't believe, of self-doubt, the tricks, the games, the mind plays on you, the tricks. It's going to happen. Prepare for it. Prepare for it, because they will come many times over.
Yeah. One of the things that the angle that I hear when John's talking about, well, do I do it? Do I don't do it? It's just kind of a lot of money. What do I do? See, he has grown from a scarcity mindset. You people know who you are, right? You make a little money and then you hoard it. What do you do with it? You don't do anything with it, right? You're afraid to do anything with it because it might be your last dollar. And you need to wake up to the reality. You need to expose yourself to new thoughts. Any book by Peter Diamandis will do. We're in a world of abundance. It's never been better. There's never been less poor people, less sick people, less children dying, more people with a roof under their head, everything. There's never been a better time. And because of that, you have to have the confidence to say, I can't see the result yet, but I know it's inevitable because I'll do what needs to be done. And the result is inevitable. I mean, to me, I've always said numerous times on this show, you can't tell me you have faith, whatever religion you practice, and tell me you can't relate that to your business. Shit, you got to have faith to invest in yourself so that you can grow more, bigger, faster, better, soon or later. We call it the long game because, next month, next quarter, that's what people who don't grow think about. Because they're always scared. They're always in a world of scarcity. That's not the world you need to be in.
Absolutely. And, looking at it, what are some of the things you can do to play the long game, right? In the beginning, when I started to block a business, I had zero money. I think I have 20 grand, 15, 20 grand in the bank, and said, you know what, I got to make it. I got 6 months till I run out of money because I was living razor thin. Wasn't living on anything because I never had money. So the expense part was easy. But what I did was any of the money that I had and some from the credit card was invested in the telemarketing because I knew all I needed was leads, and that would generate revenue, which was going to take a long time to come in and start the sales cycle. Close a $5,000 account at the time, it's $400 something a month. That's going to take 90 days, and it's $400 a month. And by the time it pays off, it's going to be a while, but it comes and you're building the equity. So you're trading alone for equity in your own company, where maybe some of you are trading the short game. Give me the money now. I get no equity. Well, they're loaning you money now, right, in your salary, but you're getting no equity on the back end. And that's the short game. So in reverse, could you borrow if you believed in yourself? Could you get access to the money to put into yourself to get the payoff later, then pay off the loan later, but retain the equity of the risk? And that's what the long game is. Do I go long? Do I go short? There's different for each person and what they want, but playing the long game is it's a long cycle. So let's get into stories. Craig, one of the best stories that I hear is Catalyze Health. You leave retail, you go to this conference, you hear this crazy guy speaking to some amazing idea that you never heard of, and then you go, what? I want to come work for you?
2012, I'm in an investor conference on a company that I invested in because, for a while there, for about 6 or 9 months, I didn't know whether retail was dead after Obamacare passed. So I invested in this biometrics company. We used to do 55 biomarker fasting blood draw. I could pontificate for an hour on metabolic syndrome. Oh, God. Yeah. So that was back in the day, 2012. So I just filed it away. I was still, heavy into retail at the time. And by 2015, I'm starting to get bored out of my mind. I've done retail for a long time. I've trained Carla, my right hand, for 30 years, how to do the business. You learned about that when you spent a couple of years here in Orange County, and you realized I don't need to actually be involved in the retail book. I could be informed. 2015, I look him up, and it turns out that the guy lives 3 miles from my house. And I'm like, holy shit. All right, Kismet. So I said, look, I want to sell your product, right? I met you in 2012. I'm the only one in the room who understand what the hell you were talking about. I think your solution's great. And, that's it. Let me sell your product. I'll do it quietly, because he pretty much kept his solution underground for 15 years. And I said, let me work on the wholesale version of this, because, I know a lot of people. And so that's how it started. And you remember back in the day, John, when you probably met, well, I don't know, we met like maybe 17, 18. You met me and you're like, holy shit. Yeah, because I'd spent years basically reinventing myself. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. I flew hundreds of thousands of miles on my own dime.
So wait, you built a book of business, multi-million-dollar book of business, had it for 15 years, spent the money, and then said, I'm going to try this new idea and go hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
Right. I'm done with retail, so I've got a team that'll manage it. I'm using that source of revenue to fund my new venture, and that was how to become a wholesaler, how to reinvent myself. Well, who's Craig Lack, and who's it wasn't Catalyze Health then. That didn't come until 2019. I created the best-selling author status and the online. Before you know it, I had 4 pages of Google.
But you went there and you got paid how much to go there for 3 years?
I got paid exactly $0, because I told the gentleman who owned the company, I said, look, I believe that a man has to pay for his education. I don't want anything. Just let me market your solution and figure out how to do it, right? Because he had his way and I had my own ideas. And so it literally took a few years. I give you a case in point. We used to go to Louisiana all the time with our brother, Jerry Call, God rest his soul. And Jerry was the local New Orleans guy, and he would drive me all over that state and Mississippi. And it took a little over 2 years before we made a sale. I mean, you can't believe it. It's like, that's a long time to wait, guys. Now, luckily, I had things going on in other states, but that was really an impetus for me. All right. I had really good relationships with some guys down there, and they're just really slow in the South. I kept investing. I had no equity, but I believed that I would produce such a financial impact that equity would be inevitable. And guess who was right? I was.
How much money do you think you were spending year to year over that time without a salary?
Oh, a couple $100,000.
A couple $100,000.
Between flights and hotel. I would tell brokers, you get me 3 to 5 meetings in 2 days, I'll fly anywhere. I was an idiot. I didn't know how to use Teams or Zoom until COVID forced me to. And nowadays, I don't want to fly anywhere.
And the payoff, it paid, you now have equity.
Look at the hat.
Again, trading upfront money for long money. Yes, you're in a position to not need it, but you're also in a position knowing and believing.
There's no guarantee. Shit, I had to produce or die. Strong motivation for me.
We can go back to that's a great story. We can go back to Heads Up Advisor here. This show, I went to. You're talking the one event. Your son was on stage talking about doing video, this and that. I watched one of Ty Lopez's thing about creating a course. I said, let me create a course and create content in this industry for younger guys that can't join a mastermind, don't own agency, can't do it. This was so beneficial years ago, Craig. I got to get this out. You know, you've taught me, because this would have been phenomenal for me years ago. And so I came out to you with the idea, we're going to do it, we're going to do this. And then after 2 months, I says, it's not worth selling the course. Why don't I just promote on the show Virtue Health and do it that way? And so what did we do? I picked up, I moved part-time to California, rented an apartment there for the studio that was $40,000 a year, spent $30,000+ in studio equipment because there was no, online studio, this or that. We had to buy massive, expensive stuff back then to make it run. Bought a live stream studio course, couple $1,000, spent countless hours learning how to do it, produce the show, host it, run it all from behind the scenes. So you're figuring we're close to over $100,000 in the hole to start going, well, this is going to work in the long run. We're just going to keep showing up. Forget it. Not even counting our time, but hey, this is going to be great for us marketing in the long run. And you fast forward, this is our 6th year between me and you. I mean, it's an easy ROI of 8 figures in revenue easily. Now, it's hard to see that in the beginning. It's hard to make that upfront bet in the beginning.
You went to my son and said, can you talk your dad into doing this with me? I remember that. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll get him to do it.
Got his son to help me talk him into it and sell him on the idea. We went to his son's house. His son drew up a playbook for us with the Facebook group. I'm like, it's not going to work. Nobody goes on Facebook. They're all LinkedIn, so on and so forth. But you fast forward again, the bet was on the long run. Yes, I was in a position to make that bet. You could say money-wise, but time-wise, how much time and effort was spent on learning and doing the show over and over for a long time without knowing if it was ever going to pay off. You look at a guy like Gary Vaynerchuk, one of the great marketers and understanding of the market and trends. It's just unbelievable if you listen to his show on how far ahead he calls things out. And he says, people say I call things out early. No, this is what's going on now. People just don't see it. But he did Wine Library. He took his father's company from $3 million to $70 million, a liquor store in good old New Jersey, right down the street from where I was. And, he left with no equity, no nothing. But the point of the story was he was playing the long game. He said he started YouTube back in, I think it was 2006 when it came out. And he did a video on YouTube every day for 3 years. And he said, not one fucking person watched my video for 3 years. 3 years, every day. And, you look at him now, he's got a 2,000 life company. I mean, he's worth hundreds of million dollars. He's probably worth over $1 billion for sure. In today's world, and will only compound more because he keeps playing the long game and he continues to talk about it. Is the things that he's doing is a setup. He wants to buy the Jets. That's his dream. He's a Jets fan. And I don't doubt that he will buy the Jets at one point because it is all about the long game. So again, going back to some of you on here listening, and this really ties into your block of business. We're talking about bigger things and bigger revenue money, but building your block of business, it is a long game. You're going to snap your fingers, 5 years goes by like that, right? You're going to look up and go, holy shit, look how many clients that I have. But the first couple, they say 3 to 5 years. If you can get past that, 5 years, you'll be in it for life. And so many that are listening understand that if you go do it, it's going to take some time. You're going to go through some up and down, but we're here to tell you the bet is worth it if you believe in yourself and you're going to work.
It's the Warren Buffett, right? When there's blood in the street, that's when you make money. Well, next year they're forecasting over 8% as the average renewal. Guys who are enumerate, okay? Average means that there's going to be a whole bunch that are twice that or higher, and then a whole bunch that are lower. So on average, it'll be 8. So think about it this way. Here's another way to visualize it. 8% average increase next year. So imagine laying down, your feet are in the freezer, and your head is in an open fire, on average, you're comfortable. Okay? So that kind of pain that's coming to the marketplace, that's how you take advantage of marketing and creating wedges that make you unique and valuable. Should be a great time.
Yeah, volatility is good. And going back to those playing the short game or thinking, well, I can do this and I'm getting a salary and I don't have to work and I'm still going to get a salary and it's only hurting you in the long run. You pay in the long run because you stay where you are and you never go past that. So thinking that I'm only going to work to what they pay me. And I remember one time when I was starting as an account manager and I was very frustrated and nobody was doing things in the office but me. And my buddy said, hey, don't worry about it. You're homing your skills right now. You're getting paid in education and homing your skills versus money. And that was very important to understand then because I had no idea what he was talking about. Your lack of experience or lack of work, well, you're getting paid in learning. So don't stop working just because you think your pay is not there. But again, if you're not working and you're playing the short game and you're saying, well, I'm going to get paid this anyway.
Depending on your size of your book and the size of the cases you like working or want to work, at a minimum, it's costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for others, it's millions of dollars in the time you're wasting, leading the comfortable lifestyle, thinking you're all that. And there's just so much opportunity that it would boggle your mind. I've lived it. When I started working for this organization that I told you the story about, it's, that was 11 times revenue ago. Who's growing at that rate? Nah, not most people.
Hey, get after it. I think we'll end it there, Craig. Play the long game, guys. You're going in the fourth quarter. I think what Craig ended on there is what is it costing you to do nothing right now? What is it costing you to cruise? If you're happy and you're done, fine. We get it. You're going to sell, you're going to retirement, fine. But if you're coasting on that mid-sized block and you're in your early 50s, 40s, 30s, it catches up to you real quick. You see inflation over the last couple of years. So your block just got chopped in half with the cost of inflation. So get up, get after it, stay hungry. Fourth quarter is here. Winter is here. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Heads Up Advisor. Thanks for joining us.